Well. All right, here we are. Tuesday night, September 16th, 7:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Pete Forcelli, welcome to the Ten-Four Tavern. What's up, my brother?
Not much, brother. Sitting here on the other side of the United States in a hotel room. Happy to see my dear friend and old colleague, Pete Mangan, joining us for the evening. But things are good.
Well, Pete Mangan, congratulations. Welcome to the podcast, and we're really excited for this. I think you're going to take the most seniority so far, for sure, at 50 years of law enforcement experience and over 100 years from the family. So going back to 1914 and your grandfather. So going to hear some great stories tonight on Pete Mangan. So how's everybody doing? What's going on?
I'm good. My wife said get a haircut for this situation, and so I went to the haircut place this afternoon, and I walked in and I sit down, and the woman says, which side do you part your hair on? I said, just make believe I'm a billiard ball, and then you figure it out.
Yeah.
What? At any rate.
Hey, come on, preach it to the choir, Peter.
Yeah, you're correct there. But grass don't grow on a busy street.
Hey, look at this. You got Carlos Canino. Pete Mangan's the real deal. I think you know his name.
Carlos is a fantastic guy. I've been all over. I went to Puerto Rico with him on several situations. He was in headquarters, and he was another guy that talked truth to nonsense. And,
well, as you know, he was our first guest, and we got real good feedback from him. Everyone really liked Carlos and his story. He was very authentic, told the truth on the podcast, no different than he probably told the truth every single day of his career. And I want to share with you what he told me today when we talked. He called me and said, I'm going to watch the show. I'm not going to miss it. Pete Mangan is great. And I said, I've gotten to know him the past week. And I said, he's just a really nice guy and really easy to get along with and just really nice. And he goes, Tommy, the guy's a warm blanket. He's like a warm blanket. Like, he just makes you so comfortable. So real good stuff, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that from Carlos. He was just a good guy. And don't let him lie to you. He's from Massachusetts. He doesn't know I know that.
Yeah. So listen, we are at the tavern, guys. And I got to say, it's not good to drink alone. But here we are. Pete, you bellying up to the bar with a little smart water. And then Peter Mangan, Trader Joe's Sparkling.
That's it, buddy.
I'm in a hotel, Tommy. They don't have a hotel bar or a hotel restaurant, but they do have one of those little markets. So it was either smart water or some other sugary crap. I opted for the smart water. Besides,
all right. Well, listen, that's okay. That's okay. This is episode 12, and I think we've had 4 or 5 non-alcoholic beverages and 5 or 6 bellying up. I'm drinking a gin martini tonight with a lemon twist. That's a Bombay.
Ooh.
So I'm not back a martini or two, but you know what they say about martinis, right?
Yes.
They're just like breasts.
One isn't enough. 3 is too many. Yep.
It's I tell the story. I told Tom earlier. I stopped drinking 5 years ago, and I love to drink. I love it. It's part of our culture. A happy hour and after roll call, after we knocked off for the night out in the parking lot. But I went to an annual physical, and I take the blood. They take the blood work, everything like that, and I say I guess I'm okay, So the doctor calls me like right after he gets the results. He said, "Mr. Mangan, I got your blood work. Your liver enzymes, they look like the Dow Stock Exchange. What are you doing?" I said. He said, you're right. I drink a lot and I love it. And he said, okay, we're going to make an appointment next week, and you're going to come in and we're going to start you on prescriptions, and we're going to see if we can get this thing straight. But he said the next thing I want you to do before you make that appointment is take your liver to a dry cleaners and work it out and get back to me. I don't know what he meant, but I got the point. So I'm I don't drink anymore, and it's good for my family, and it's good for my grandchildren and my daughters, who are wonderful. So that's that. That's the drinking thing.
All right. So listen, Peter, I'm going to go Peter and Pete, or Pete and repeat. Which one? But let's go Pete Forcelli and Peter Mangan, if it's okay with you guys. So,
Sure.
and you'll figure it out anyway. We'll get along. We'll get through it. Why don't we start? Where'd you grow up? What's going on? And where are the Mangans from?
Okay, so we're from. I was born in the Bronx, Bronx, New York. Now, there's two things I want to mention about the Bronx. First of all, it's the only borough attached physically to the continental United States.
It's a true
All
statement.
those other boroughs are floating out in some water. So now the other thing is that we have an article. Now that Sister Elizabeth told me that an article is like the Bronx. We're the only borough that has an article in front of its name, the Bronx.
Well,
So-
that article wouldn't it be fair to say that if it was important, they would have said the Bronx and make it like a little more snooty,
Well,
as opposed
actually,
to the Bronx? Because you say it the Bronx.
depending on where you're from, and I'm from University Avenue, it was the Bronx, and there were various, it depends on where you were in the Bronx. But at any rate, I'm born in the Bronx and University. We grew up on University Avenue, and my grandparents lived in the building with us. And I got baptized in St. Nicholas of Talentine. It's right down there on Fordham Road and Kingsbridge. And if you know that, it's sort of like the St. Patrick's Cathedral. It's a beautiful place, and my grandfather used to take me there a lot. He's a very religious guy, but he didn't beat up on anybody. He wasn't religious. That wasn't his thing. But he was he was a good, faithful man, and a beautiful guy. And I just like to tell you about him if we'd like to know the history or the story of immigrants, and immigrants made this country. And I don't discriminate against anybody, because nobody, you don't make an appointment or make an order with God on what you want to be. That's who you are. So who you are is who you are. So he comes from Tipperary in Ireland, and Abbey Knockmoy, a little place. And ironically or coincidentally, side story, his sister was the mother of the Clancy brothers. You know the Clancy brothers, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wild.
They used to visit. I have some pictures of them up on the roof of 2515 University Avenue. When I was I didn't take the pictures, my mother did. And they had just come to the United States, and they were right after the war. They were in the RAF, both two of them, and yeah, they were nice folks. So at any rate, my father, he comes over in the early 1900s, like a lot of Irish people did, and he becomes he applies for citizenship, which takes a while in those days. So what he does, he becomes a railroad guard, and my uncle Peter, who I'm named after, he became a motorman in the subway. And then my grandmother and her sister, they were maids on Park Avenue for a very high-end family, because this was good work for Irish ladies when they came over. So so my grandfather's a railroad guard, and then he becomes a citizen in 1912. And then 1913 comes, and he get sworn into the police department. And Big Tom, there he is. And so I spent a lot of time with my grandfather and my grandmother on University Avenue, even though when we moved away, and we'd walk his beat. And he was we'd start out on University Avenue. We'd walk to the Botanical Garden. We'd go to the Bronx Zoo. If some of the guys out there from New York City, out in Pelham, we'd walk all the way to Pelham. They have a religious catacomb there, if you believe it. And we went there a bunch of times. And we walk everywhere in the Bronx. And we'd walking along, and he would say, Petey boy, he called me Petey boy. Petey boy, and I got to be a lookout for the. Now he had a good brogue. Now, Irish people, Tipperary has a nice brogue. You go to Cork, my son-in-law is from Ireland, so he said that's a Cork guy, and he said, and then he said that's a Galway guy talking, and then he said, now you go up to Derry, I can't figure what the hell they're talking about up there. So at any rate, he had a very, very wonderful voice. And he said, now, Peter boy, we're going to be walking around. And I want you to look out for the shoe fly. So I'm thinking it's like an insect or something like that. And then I find out later the shoe fly. So that's the guy in the precinct that, he's making book on everybody because he gets an attaboy. So at any rate, he got 3 rips, absent from his post, failure to make his entry in the book, and failed to get permission to take a wee, I guess. So,
for all the active NYPD guys and retired, Thomas McGrath was getting stalked by shoe flies as early as the 1910s and 20s. So exactly. It's been going on for 100 years, guys.
Yeah. Beware of the shoe fly, Petey boy. So we walk everywhere in the Bronx, and one day we're walking down, and we go by St. Nicholas Talentine. We're going down Fordham Road, and we come to the Harlem River, and years and years ago, it turned out that the Daily News, he had rescued a kid that fell in the river, and they did an article on him, and he was showing me where the young kid was, and he said, now Peter boy, we're going to go down by the river edge. Now I want you to put your pants in your socks. I said, what? No, you tuck your pants into your socks. And I said, well, what? Rats. What are rats? What are rats? So I said, that's a good lesson to learn. So, but he was my hero. And so I'm I want to be a cop. So I Vietnam coming. I get out of college in 1968, Belmont Abbey. It's in North Carolina. I know everybody. Hey, what are you going to be? Were you going to be a monk? No. It's they run the place. I'm not going to be a monk. So so I get out of the Abbey, and then I got to wait. I joined the Navy Reserve because it's Vietnam, and so I'm waiting for to get called to active duty, and then I worked at Tiffany, the jewelry place on the second floor. But I was a salesperson, but all I did was follow the house detective around because I was always curious that maybe he needs a backup. And there was a woman.
The house detective a retired cop?
One guy was, and then there was a woman who she looked like, you would never make her in a million years. But everybody, the guard, the Tiffany security, they were strapped. I guess they had an agreement with Tiffany.
They got money.
So I get out of the Navy, and then I took the NYPD test, and my mother is not good with the to have police work because she lived, with that. And my brother-in-law became my brother-in-law, big guy, Corcoran, great guy. So my mom, the day of the test, she turns my alarm clock off. But big guy comes over, he knocks on the door. Time to go to the test. I'm going to drive. So he takes me down there, and I passed the test. It was, no big deal. It was, so then I go for the physical, and I'm nervous and jerky because, about my eyes. And so I get there, and everybody's lined up. You with a towel, and the guy comes in. He's got a white jacket on. He looked like something from I don't know where, but mental institution. He's got a white jacket. Everybody, he's a German guy. Everybody, raise your head. Raise your head. So I raised my head. He points at me. You get out. Called me wearing contact lenses. So I'm done. I can't. I go home. I'm devastated. So
what was the requirement that at that time, Pete? Was it 2020 or
no?
20?
It was like 2040 at the
Okay.
max.
Okay.
And the guy.
How'd that make you feel?
It made me feel very sad and disappointed, and I was very frustrated. But I'm not going to give up. So I go and I work in. I get out of the Navy, and big guy. He gets me. He worked in Wall Street. I go to Wall Street. I'm out there with this security guards in front of number 110 Wall Street. They got green uniforms. They're all retired NYPD guys. I'm looking, hey man, this is pretty cool. And they're all, they're letting people. They wear green uniforms and really look pretty sharp. And so then I said, yeah, not happening for me in the Wall Street. So then a buddy of mine gets me a job at the Canadian Embassy up on 6th Avenue or wherever the hell it was. So I'm doing that, and I'm trying to think about how am I going to get back in the game. So I become a Yonkers auxiliary cop, and Pete will know what I'm talking about because his dad was a Yonkers auxiliary cop.
Correct. That is correct. On Radford Street, he worked out of the Radford Street post.
Three. Yeah. Yep. So but I'm talking. I'm I uniform. I go to the classes and everything, but it's not the cops. And I love it, but Pete can identify being from Yonkers, and we used to go to Landy's Wedge, place.
Yes.
They call it Wedge, and in Yonkers it's a wedge, and in the Bronx it's I don't know what they call it, kerfluffle. I don't know what the hell they call it. But,
Peter, like Tommy, you're gonna like this. Landy's was a legendary place. They had sandwiches, and right next door to them was a bakery called Miratella's Bakery. Remember that, Pete?
Yep.
Place was around forever. This place, if you walked into it today, most people would turn around and walk right out. First off, their sandwiches, they did not have lettuce. It did not exist, but you could get tomatoes. Yes. The other thing is, and this is the beauty of Landy's, because I'm telling you, the place is legendary, and I've had sandwiches there as a kid. The guy would come out of the back room. He'd be wearing a wife beater, right, with the bread tucked under his armpits, right?
Yeah, of course.
And put him down on the counter with the mayonnaise that sat out there for like 3 days. The cat, remember the cat? It was a cat who walked around the counter. The place, but there would be a line around the block for the sandwiches from there. And yeah, Yonkers is the only place I've ever been to where a hero or a sub is called a wedge. Nowhere else in New York have I heard that term used.
It was a great place, and then so at any rate, I'm sort of bored. My brother-in-law guy, he has a buddy of his on NYPD. I'm not going to mention his name. He's deceased at this moment, and God rest. And I met him, and I tell him my story about my failed test and everything like that. He says, "All right, here's what I want you to do. Monday morning, I want you to go to the Newark U.S. Marshal's office and go to the marshal and tell him that Brian sent me, and let me know what happens. So Monday, I think I'm going to be like, maybe they're going to use a clerk. I can be in the marshal's office, so sort of get my feet wet a little bit. So I go there, and I go into the office. I see the reception lady, and she's very nice. I said, I'm here to see the marshal. You Mangan, Pete Mangan? I said, yes. He said, the marshal's waiting for you. So I walk in the office and go, Mangan, right? Okay. Raise your right hand. I said, what you're going to be a deputy, a special deputy U.S. Marshal. You're going to have a brown badge, but you're going to be a special deputy. Raise your hand, oath of office, and he calls in, hey, Ricky, one of the deputies, take this kid down to the range. In the post office, they had a range in Newark. He said, get him qualified, and give him a Smith & Wesson revolver. All right, I go down to the range. I took out the ceiling, and it was a good show. He goes, "Hey, you're good, looking good." I go back up. I'm a deputy U.S. Marshal, and I drive. And I never did the court thing. I never was in the courtroom. I saw a couple of good guys. The one guy who used to be a Port Authority guy, and they took me in, and they were comfortable, and I rode all through Union County and all of Jersey City, and we're doing great stuff. And I said, man, this is good. And then I get a call from my buddy from college. He said, come down here and take the test in D.C. So I go down there and I stay at his house, and he's a sergeant at this point on the police department. And he says, take the test. So I take the test, and I'm good with that. And then I don't hear much. And then I hear I get a call for a physical from the background people. So I go down. I stay at John Noon's house. It's the late John Noon. I stay at his house, and the next morning I get up, and I got to go to the police and fire clinic, and I'm shaking like a dog shitting razor blades because I'm nervous and jerky about that test. So I get in, and let me just say, I passed the test. I don't know whether it was divine intervention, or whatnot, but there was a light duty firefighter reading the newspaper. He was given the eye test. Never looked up from the newspaper. Read the line, whatever, ABC. Got it. Got the fake glasses on, and read the other line. You're good. Next.
Hold on a second, Peter. So we got a question here. Does Mangan have any hostage negotiation stories like Dog Day Afternoon? So answer that in one or real short, and then I want to tee up, because this is the perfect segue for you now taking the test in DC and what you're about to embark on for the next 40-something years. So the answer is yes. So stand by, Mickey McMurphy. Anyway,
another Italian.
I heard
something, huh?
Yeah. So I heard not only did Carlos Canino call you a warm blanket, but he said to me, you are the Library of Congress for law enforcement. He goes, nobody knows more than this guy in law enforcement. He goes, I've met every leader across the country. This is the guy to go to. And he goes, and he does it so humbly. I'm getting goosebumps. He goes, you're not going to believe the stuff that this guy knows and he's done. So what I'm saying to the 175 listeners so far right now, and that we usually get add-ons as they go, and then we'll get the replays later. Stay by and listen now, because you're going to hear a fantastic career, but I could not do it justice. I'm going to let Pete jump in and talk about Pete Mangan.
Well, I'm going to tell you a couple of things. Number one is you heard Pete very humbly talk about how badly he wanted the job, right? That he went, took the test, became an auxiliary cop, then went to the marshals, then went down to DC Metro. Humbly, right? Throughout his career, I met Pete way, way, way after his DC Metro career was over, and pretty far into his ATF career as well. That same hungriness that he showed and talked about, he still had. So here, when I hooked up with Pete, by this time he had a long career behind him, and took everything he learned and was so eager to pass it on to the next generation. In fact, one thing I'll say, look, I always prided myself on being a cop, and I get it. I rose through the ranks at ATF, but I still always viewed myself as that cop that walked the beat, that just got lucky. And Peter like this. I got sent to headquarters the first time after I was thrown out of Arizona for Fast and Furious. And then I went back 2 other times. And, I was a GS-14, which is a first line supervisor the first time. And there's little cliques. There's like a coffee place right across from ATF headquarters, Aubon Pond. And what would happen is the 14s all hung out together. And then if you got promoted to a 15, you were supposed to go. Or sometimes the 14s would go kiss the 15s' asses. And every single day, I went and had coffee with Pete Mangan, because he was a humble guy and he would tell me stories. Yes, he is like a historian. But it was funny because I'd catch grief, like, especially from as I promoted up higher. Like, how come you don't hang out with us? You hang out with him. And the truth was, I respected Pete more, and he was a lot more fucking interesting than most of the people in headquarters. So that's a fact. If I was in ATF headquarters for business, if I wasn't on the road, Pete Mangan for coffee was my first stop every single day, without fail.
We did that. So they call me, and now I'm in the academy, and I'm doing okay. There's the tin. I'm doing fine, and I'm with I did get sworn in, and I'm in a suit. I'm in a suit. There's another guy Steve. He's in a suit. We're in the swearing in. There's 50 of us get sworn in. So I had driven down the night before in my beater, and I'm slept in the car and in front of the recruiting station because I come down from Yonkers. So I put the suit on. I just quick change. So you get sworn in. The guy comes over to me, Steve Colo, who ended up being my partner for a while, and then he went on to the Secret Service and ended up of a high-ranking official there and a great guy. And he said, "Where you staying?" And he said, "I like we're the only 2 with suits on." So he said, "We're looking for a roommate." So him and my buddy, turns out a very good friend of mine. He's got another roommate, Jay Gutierrez, who's a prince, and they put me up, and I moved to that apartment, and went to the academy, and so we did good on this, and we got a wish list at the end, and wish list is like I want to be the chief, whatever. So I said I want to go to Special Operations Division. I'm like, yeah, okay. So it turns out, and I'm not bragging, but we did good. So there was 4 of us that we got the pick. So we go to Special Operations. I never went to a district or a precinct. I never took a accident report in my career. I never took a burglary report. I don't take any. All I go to is SOD, Special Operations Division, and it's high visibility crime patrol, and we saturate felony stops and felony stuff. We rattled some of the district local offices, because we're shaking the tree and making enemies and friends. And
That's
so
what it's about, brother. Hey, Bill
Yeah.
Bill Temples just chimed in. Hello, boys. Mangan, you're the best. Another respected ATF
Another
leader,
good
Billy
guy.
Temple. Good to have you on, Bill.
good fellow there.
Hey,
Bill.
Peter, I'm going to guess that you might have made a lot of arrests, but I'll bet you every one of them walked away smiling for the most part.
Yeah, I try to be, treat everybody decent. I got my ass kicked a couple of times, and but I used to tell them, people, I got 5,000 guys at the end of this radio that are gonna beat your ass, and so I'm just a little schmuck here, so don't jump Western on me, So it works sometimes. Sometimes it worked, but
Yeah.
so I go to that, and we're running and gunning, and I'm in court every day, so it's day work 3 to 11, and then I'm going. That was a jumper there. Tragic guy. At any rate, that's been my negotiation days. You see my get up there. See, I go. They used to call me the tow truck operator. The media would come. Some precinct district go officer. What the hell is with the tow truck guy? then my boss would tell them I had some great bosses, and but I always went soft because the people are nervous and jerky. They're afraid. They're afraid of but it's Pete. I'm not going to hurt you unless you try to hurt me, and then we're going to kill you. And that's just the way it was. And when sometimes I had to set people up for a takedown, but you know what? They made the call, and I have no control over that. But I'm going to do. What
You not only were one hell of a negotiator, according to people I know who knew you back in those days, but you created a ton of negotiators. I'm looking forward to hearing some of your stories about some of the real hairy negotiations you were involved in. Because I know there were some that were like, holy shit, very similar to Dog Day Afternoon kind of stuff, like high profile stuff that doesn't really happen that often, even today, with all the insanity.
Yeah. So NYP on DC Police, I was tactical, and then George B. I won't mention his name as a lieutenant. He said, "Why don't you come over to the negotiation side?" And I thought, no way, no, I'm not going to do that. So we went back and forth, back and forth. So one day I'm in the locker room, and there's a guy there, and he's putting his gun away, and he lets off a round accidentally. Boom. So Lieutenant B comes out of the negotiation office, and I'm coming out the door. He says, "Mangan, what the hell was that all about?" I said, no problem. Lieutenant, I got to dime these guys out. They're fucking around, screwing around with fireworks. And I told you, the lieutenant can hear that. So he said, "All right, Mangan, all right, go about your business." And then the kid that has the accidental discharge walks into the office and dimes himself out. So Bradford, Lieutenant said, "Mangan, I'm going to give you a rip here unless you become a negotiator." So I became a negotiator. And I went to the basic school, and then I went to the Prince George's County School with Bill Hogwood, and I went to the Quantico, to the FBI basic school and the advanced school, and they were wonderful there. I met a lot of good colleagues, and then I was a negotiator, and a lot of call outs. I probably got 200 jobs under my belt of various degrees. Some of them are 2 seconds, some of them are 13. Yeah, there's one there. This is a robbery in a commercial establishment. With you notice, I'm talking to this guy, So he he gets a precinct guy goes by, district guy. He sees the robbery in progress, and the guy sees him, and he takes the owner and a secretary hostage, and he puts them in a closet, and so they call me, and it's a long negotiation, and the guy is he went to a university in Louisiana. He was a football star, and he got hung up in the drug situation in DC, and it was but then so we're in the room. He's in the room, and he cuts the owner was able to run out, but he cuts the lady, and and so we get in there, and I'm talking through the door, and um, I'm not going to answer that. I'm talking through the door.
It's an old school ring.
Yeah, it is, and we finally get him out, and he gave it up for McDonald's. It was a McDonald's next. So I said, "I'm going to get some McDonald's. Would you like some McDonald's?" So he said, "Okay." I said, "Well, do me a favor. What do you want?" "Yeah, I want just a cheeseburger and fries, and I got a drink in here, so I don't need a drink." So I said, "Okay, you got to open the door because." He said, "No, I'm not opening this door until I get something to eat." So I go back and I put my foot down on the cheeseburger, and it's the size of an envelope. But by the time I'm finished, I slide it under the door. Guy came out, so that was good. And during some of the negotiations, we're in the SRT, van, SWAT van, and we're going to a job. and it's like the benches, and it's almost like a prison van, and we're looking going to a job that's going to be tough, and everybody's sort of holding their thoughts together, maybe a prayer, maybe, and that's that feeling. And one of the tactical guys said, Pete, this is a bad job we're going to. This is a rugged job, and I just hope you can work your mojo and get this guy out, because it's not going to end well. And I remember that compliment forever. And so at any rate, I leave the tactical, and I'm in the negotiations, and some are okay, and some of them not so pleasant. And I don't know what. One was 13 hours, and that was that was a bad job. And there was a guy uh, and his girlfriend have a falling out, and she has a room with a 5-week-old baby, and live together. And he comes up, and he's very pissed off. He has a high caliber weapon, and you know, I get called to respond from home, and I always had my pager. We didn't have any cell phones. Pager, and I called the headquarters, SOD, and they said, get into this job. They give me the address, and I drive down, leave my family. The kids are asleep. Wife is used to it, so I drive down, and um, I get in there, and I'm in the hallway, and I'm I'm talking to the guy, and uh, there's a door between us. It's like 4 inches thick, but that door is like such a barricade to things. And he's threatening, and you see what happens was he goes in, and he gets mad at the girlfriend. He shoots and kills her, and then the roommate is sitting there with her 5-week-old baby, and he starts to shoot at her, and she takes the baby holder, with the baby seat, and holds it up, uh, uh, and protects the baby. And he shoots her multiple times, not dead, uh, but very severely injured. And then the neighbors can hear the shots. So that's why we responded, and we take over from the precinct district guys. And so I'm in the hallway, and I'm trying to think of a hook. We're always looking for a hook to what's going to work with this guy. And I'm talking to him for a bit, and he says, I'm in the army. I'm in the army. He said, the army doesn't hurt people. The army can help people. And he goes, bullshit and like that. Then we start talking about, well, if you come out, well, what kind of car? We'll put you in a car. I'll go with you. You want to see your parents down in Virginia? I'll go with you. I'll drive with you. And this goes on, and he almost opens the door. He doesn't open. He slams the door, and uh, then he goes in the back bedroom, and a short time later, I can hear this groaning, and it's the lady. She said, you got to help, come in here. You got to help me. My baby's in here." And he's in the back bedroom. So she dragged herself to the door, and I'm talking to her and said, "Okay, I'm Pete. We're going to do everything we can. We're going to try to get you out of here. Can you unlock the door?" I said, I can't reach the door. He's got the key." And so uh, he must have heard us. So then he fires around, and I thought he was aiming at me. I'm talking on the linoleum in the public hallway, the public housing hallway, and he's shooting downstairs because he was high out of his mind. So I go on. I try to calm him down and cool him, and then he said, I'm not, I want to talk to my mother or some shit like that. So, and then he's moving around the apartment. And what I found out later, he picks up the wounded lady, the injured lady, and he puts her on his back and he starts destroying the apartment, swinging her around. Uh, it was terrible. I could hear her. And then he throws her down on the ground. The place is destroyed. I found out subsequently when we got in there. And, uh, you know, so we got a, we hear another round go off. And I'm saying, hey, so, can you hear me? Can you hear me? So she crawls back to the door and she said, he shot my baby. So I said, oh, okay, we're gonna get him some help. So then Roddy Monroe is my boss, a fantastic captain, and he said, okay, we're gonna we're gonna take a shot if we can get him. I want you to see what you can do. Get him over to the window, and um, he at times moved around toward a window. We had a good sniper round on him, and I'm not going to. Somebody blocked the chain of command, and the captain is in charge of the job from SOD. And a boss from headquarters came down and said, "This guy's parents are in the command post, and we cannot shoot him while they're here." I don't. And Rodney Monroe, he said, "Yes, sir," but he knows what we're going to do, and um, he went to the window a couple of times. He ends up pulling the blinds down, so that knocked that out. So I I hear the woman again, and she's at the door, and she said he's going to kill me. And then the TAC team is behind me in a vacant apartment, and they hit the door. And when that little door opened just a little bit, and they run in, and the guy's in the back bedroom, and he's up in the L shape. He's on a bed in the corner, and he tries to shoot the entry team, and they light him up, and they dispatched him, and then they killed him, and then I come in behind the team, and I see the lady that survived, and I because you say silly things. I said, are you dead? She said, no, Mr. Pete, I'm not dead. I just said it. I'm not, so I'm good. And then I see her roommate. She's DOA on the couch, and then I'm saying, so the Captain Monroe, he said, Pete, see if you can find the baby. We got to find the baby. I'm looking around. The place is a massacre. Everything broken. There's broken glass, and I see some little kids' toys and whatnot. And you see, my daughters at home. They had those pajamas with the feet in them. It's a onesie, and they wore them all the time. And I'm looking around. I said, here's a doll. It's got the onesie. It's a green onesie, just like my daughters have. And I picked up this. I said, let me take this doll here and keep looking. And I looked down and I rolled the doll over, and it's the little baby, and the back of her head's blown off. And I started crying. And you know what? Cops cry, and I cried, and I threw my helmet down, and then the ERTs came in, the medics and whatnot, and evac the lady, and I just burst out, and I failed, and I didn't do my job, and we had a post-incident quick briefing, and my guys, and they said, Pete, no, you did everything you could, and I did, and it was a horror show, and it's and then that guy talking about PTSD. See, every once in a while, that guy, he's back of my head, never going away, never leaving, but he's in back of my head, and every once in a while he comes in the front, and then I gotta knock him back because he can't take over my mind. And PTSD is real, and I looking down at dead cops and dead kids, and you guys have all been to that rodeo, and PTSD will kill you just as dead as a round in your noggin if you don't get it under control. And I've worked hard on it. My wife has been wonderful, and my daughters, and they put up with a lot. And PTSD makes you do. I'm hyper vigilant. We're driving down the street, and my wife pointed out bad tail light. It's got no inspection sticker. What that isn't it? I've no rolled your window down in the middle. She said, "Pete, would you stop it? You retire." I said, and I told her, what you're looking at, your street view is never going to be the same as my street view, and we're looking at two different worlds. And so she said, "Okay, whatever." So now I got my grandchildren. They're on. I drive them around a lot, and we're picking out traffic infractions all the time. And my grandson, he's autistic. He's a high level, and just a wonderful kid. Patter, I love him. And pop, taillight. I got a taillight out there. He's from Ireland. He's born in Ireland, and he's just again. Then we said, legal turn. We've seen a lot of illegal turns here. He's a good little boy. But
Well,
so
Pete,
yeah,
man, one of the things that Tom and I are passionate about, and I want to thank you for bringing it up, because look, it takes a lot of courage to talk about the things that scar us.
yeah,
And I know you and I have talked over the years. I mean, look, you can't unsee what you saw. One of the things I say all the time is, and you touched on it in different words, is it's okay to not be okay. It's not okay not to do something about it. So it's good that you have your wife to fall back on, and she
Yes.
gets it. And look, we're all cops. Like I finally have gotten to the place where me and my wife won't get into an argument if we sit in a restaurant and she's the one facing the door, But no, man, that got me choked up hearing it. But thank you for sharing it. But you were also involved in some pretty heavy capers, like building takeovers, which you were telling the stories, man, blew my mind. Why don't you touch on those real quick?
The Hanafi takeover. The Hanafi Muslims had a disagreement with another sect, and there was a brutal mass murder up in Northwest Washington, and the other sect went in there and they slaughtered everybody in the house, and they shot everybody, and they took a young baby and they drowned it in a bathtub, and so the other sect wanted revenge because they didn't think the cops were moving on the case and try to solve this case. So their answer was to take over 3 locations. They took over a mosque, they took over the B'nai B'rith, and they took over the city hall. And I got dispatched to the city hall, and I was there and there was a dead security guard there, and we that time I was still tactical, and
So Peter, this Hanafi siege, am I reading this right? 149 hostages?
yes, they were mostly at the B'nai B'rith because
the 3. And for everyone, this is March 9th to March 11th, 1977.
Yes, and well, how things come around. So the negotiation program hadn't got underway in D.C., and so the bosses were negotiating with the head guy of this sect to try to reason with him and let the hostages go. But the problem with when a boss negotiates, you better have the answer because you're the boss. See, Pete, I got to go to somebody, and that's my hook. Oh, let me check with the boss. But if you're the boss, you got to deliver. So that's when they realized that they need a negotiation unit. So that's how things got started. And out of a tragedy, And and then we're at the city hall, and there was we had the hostages. They were lined up in the public information office, and um, we smoked glass. You couldn't really see anything. And then some guy from the training academy, supervisor, what do you call it, a range instructor, he gets the idea that he's going to shoot out the windows on top of the people, and so we can get a better view inside. So he rips with a semi-automatic rifle. Uh, the glass goes flying everywhere. The people are screaming and yelling out of their minds. And me and my buddy Dana, we're behind a pillar. And then the guy clears the semi-automatic rifle. He pops around into marble floor, comes up and hits my partner, and at that time my roommate, in the leg, and he's out of service. So immediately I'm saying to myself, now this guy's my roommate. If he gets killed, I'm going to be stuck with the rent. So I say, Dana, they're going to take care of it. But you better get your ass back. I'm not fronting the rent, but if you get dead, he was turned away. So so then that was nice, and we got the mayor out, and it's a poor security guard just trying to do his job. And the folks were scared out of their minds, and most bad people are bullies, and I dedicate my life to good cops, bullies, and that's why we're cops, because bandits and bad guys are bullies, and that's my ambition, to push back on bullies all the time, and so that was that, and then they went to the that's why we started a negotiation unit. It's like a three chair. What do you call it? The three-legged chair. The tactical, negotiation, and the medics. And we had a great medic unit. Yeah. And they're tactical medics, and as Pete knows, they can operate in the environment. So and then we were good, and then we moved on, and now I'm going to go.
You know what, Peter? Before we move on to another caper, let's do, got a couple of comments here. Anthony DiMaggio, some PTSD stuff, so we can maybe dip into this a little bit, because these guys are responding to this two terrible capers that you just went through, and obviously the scars are there. So Anthony DiMaggio, Yonkers PD, by the way.
Yes.
Unfortunately, people only associate PTSD with observably erratic behavior. Most cases aren't like that. The damage is cognitive and emotional, and rarely affects anybody but the sufferer. Interesting comment.
Point right on.
Then had to be aware of what you put on the walls in your mind. It will always be there. Father Francis Rafferty, that's BT. That's Billy Temple, right?
Yep. That's
Lily. Lily's answering Anthony DiMaggio. I think PTSD is more of an injury, not a disorder, because it's exposed to traumatic situations or experienced trauma. And then more trauma here. Governor Hochul is polling well, but we're going to drop that. So anyway, what do you guys think?
Weird. Tommy,
I'm going to share with you guys real quick, and I've said this on the podcast that I was originally interviewed for. The baby cases, which I've had more than my fair share, being in the 7-9, 7-7 detective squads, and then cold case, looking at the pictures going back, even though I didn't work those crime scenes, but I worked my fair share. I used to say that I could pretty much count on 2 young child baby cases a year in the 7-7, 7-9 area. So that puts me at around 10 or 12 really bad death investigations on children. They bothered me a lot. And I do have those flashbacks that you're talking about. It's in the back, and I got to be honest with you. Some of the most horrific crime scenes and some of the other stuff, and even the 9/11 stuff, it's kind of like been compartmentalized for me, and it never really surfaces back. However, the kids come back to me all the time.
Yeah, it's absolutely the case, and it just doesn't go away. Like I said, that bandit tries to come in the frontal lobe, and I keep pushing back. And I've had some good support, and out of tragedy, some good stuff will come. And like I said, I had some good supervisors, and I had a lot of some sergeants. They don't want to write anything. They don't want to. Mangan, I have two of them come up to me. Mangan, come into the office. Look, you're not in New York City. I said, I know. They said, you can't be. You got to ease up. Ease up. I'm not. Ease up. What are you talking about? And and then another guy comes up a week later. He meets my car was getting in the shop, picks me up. Peter, I got to have a sit down with you in the car here. And, your sergeant spoke to you. And I would like to tell you also that, you can't be going out here like gung ho all the time. Just take it easy. Let me out. I'll take a bus to this house. I'm this. But I had two good. I had Louis DeCamera and Russ McBain, and they were my supervisors, and they were fantastic. And they backed my play, and not my play. And I had some good partners, and we try to make things safe, and that's what our job was, and not to worry about paper pushing or whatever the hell that problem was. And but I pay them no mind, and I just forged ahead, and and then the Hanafi takeover, that was that, and then the police headquarters, in '94, I was a negotiator there in Hank Daly building, and I'm going to my part-time. We had a lot of, through the department, we had a lot of good gigs. I worked at Watergate complex for security, on the book, retired, what do you call it, overtime, but through the department, and a lot of famous people there, and it was nice. It was a good gig. So I'm driving to the gig, and I get redirected to come to police headquarters because there's a situation going on there, and I redirect. I always have my radio on, and I always have my uniform available. I was in uniform anyway because I was doing my part-time trick. So I get to police headquarters, and there's a helicopter on the in the street, and holy shit, and I get a quick briefing from my supervisor, and tell me, careful, we're going up to the third floor or fourth floor with the homicide branches, and I get up there. I take the stairs because we don't want to use the elevator, and I'm going to meet Mike Brooks, my other negotiator, and I open the door there, and I see Joe Gentile. He's a good cop. He's a public information guy, good guy, and on the ground, he's help me. He's saying to me, help me with Hank. Hank is shot, and I'm looking down at Hank, and I know Hank. He's grew up in Brooklyn, and Hank Daly, and we used to bounce to some of the Irish bars, and I knew him from there, and he was a legend in D.C. And I said, Joe, he's dead, and you got to get out of this hallway because this is not going well, and so he did, and he was crying, and I was crying, and so I went around the corner and went to the entrance to the cold case squad, and Mike Brooks was there, and the detectives were all out in the hallway, and they're yelling, "Go in and get him! What are you waiting? Go in and get him!" We don't even know what's going on. And what happened was, in retrospect, is that these two kids are coming to the cold case squad to get a voucher signed because they were witnesses to a homicide several years earlier. So this bandit, I won't even mention his name because it's not necessary. He comes in to headquarters and he sees these two kids, and he said, "Hey, you guys happen to know where homicide is?" And he said, "Yeah, we're going up there." But he was looking for the main homicide captain because he was under investigation for a multiple shooting, drug related, up with a crew up in Northwest Washington, where they went into a row house and assassinated a woman that stiffed him on for some payment for a drug, and then on the way out he shot their grandfather, and killed him. So they're onto the guy. So they impounded his car, and he's berserk about his car. So that's why he's going to homicide, to get even with the captain who took his car, because his walk boys knew his car was impounded, and they thought he was cooperating with the cops, and he wanted to dispel that rumor because it was starting to take seed. He said, "I'm going to show my walk boys that I'm not squealing on anybody." And then so he comes up, and they open the door, and he opens up. He shoots one of these kids and accidentally, I guess, in the leg, and the kid runs away. He goes down to the communications division. The other kid runs in there and hides behind a interview desk, and it's remains silent. And then subsequently, the guy went in and he shot Hank behind his desk, and then he wheeled over and shot a agent in the chest, who was subsequently evac'd out of there by some of the detectives. Then he wheeled around, yes, and he wheeled around and shot uh, Michael, and then he was engaged by Martha. Um, she was in a adjacent room working on a teletype, and she engaged him, and they exchanged fire, and he had the semi-automatic rifle, and she was able to hit the magazine of the rifle, and the rounds went everywhere because when we got in, there was this huge spring in there, and what the heck? And but he wounded her, and he went over and pushed her down, and took her gun, and he executed her, and he killed her, and so we get there, and we don't know any of this, and so we get the kid, and we're negotiating with the kid and the homicide detectives, so we're trying to convince them, good buddies of mine. We're trying to convince them that he's just an innocent kid, that he's nothing. He just don't be, wishing bad on this kid. So me and Brooks, we finally talked the kid out. He's scared out of his mind, as he should have been, and we take him to the chief of detectives office, and everybody's talking to this kid, and brass. I mean, deputies, inspectors, chiefs, everybody. And I looked at my Ray Tarasovics, my lieutenant, a good cop too, and I said, "Everybody, shut up in this room. Kid, you talk to nobody but me. You talk to nobody, okay? And now I'm going to talk to you because I'm Pete, and I want you to tell me what happened." And he explained the whole thing, how the guy came in, and I said, "Okay, we're going to go in there, and I know this is a juvenile, but we're going to go in there, and I want you to look and see if you can see this guy." And we go in, and there's the shooter. He had put one of the agent's raincoats on, and he had Martha's gun, and he killed himself. And then I went, it was a I saw Martha, and I Meta came in again, and he said, "No." I said, "Man, I feel so terrible for Martha. I hope he didn't, beat her up like her face was distorted. And he said, no. He shot her in the back of the head. And I'm in shock. I don't know what the heck. So I go out and that was that. So and Hank Daly, beautiful guy. Martha Dixon, Michael Miller, fucking just great people, good guy. And Martha's husband was an FBI agent also. And I went to Hank's funeral. When I say about police funerals, they're important. They are important. And I've been to several, and as we all have, went to one in Long Island. ATF agent, friendly fire in a drugstore. He was picking up a prescription for his dad, and the cop, Long Island cop, mistaken him for a bandit, because the pharmacy had gotten robbed earlier, and there was friendly fire, and he was deceased. So, I'm going to I go to these funerals, and they're wonderful, and big turnout, and everybody got their morning band on, and I'm looking, and then the fire department's putting out flags, and the piping, and then come at the end of the day, we go to the bar or wherever you want to. We're going to go home and hug your kids and whatnot, and the band stops playing, and you know what? We're all leaving except one person, and that person is a angel in heaven, and they're not leaving. But it makes me sad because
Peter, just one second. There's a couple of comments I want to bring up. HFL, I believe he's a housing cop. You probably know
Housing for Life. That stands for Housing for Life.
Housing for Life. We in transit we used to call it OPD, the other police department. So
we had a name for. We have the cops down here, and we call it the electric sewer. So that's. Yeah. But I love the transit cops and the housing. I got dupes of their badges. My brother-in-law sent me, and I honor them. And you know what? You run the statistics on housing and transit, and they're on the blue wall. And I remember we had a housing project in the Bronx, Kingsbridge, and I used to walk by there. We used to get Chinese food, but big Friday night, my dad we'd get Chinese food. And there was a Chinese place on Broadway before 207th Street. So and I used to see this cop, and he had his the long coat on, and he'd be over there right by the entrance to the housing, and they had a little round circle on their. You guys know that.
You're going back a long time ago. Yeah, back when they were beginnings of the housing authority police.
Yeah, and I kept staring at the cop, and man, what a great job that's got to be. And then we took the Chinese home. Petey boy, my father, stop staring and get in here. The stuff's going to get cold. Off we went. And
let's hit some of the comments and have some fun here. Chronicles of the Collapse. Did I hear him correctly? The electric sewer.
Yeah,
I've heard that before. Yeah, for sure.
And then I had some good bosses, and I took some chances. So you can take another comment. I just want to tell you a quick story about my bosses. We get a job, come from home. The guy's on the 11th floor of a high-rise building in Southeast Washington, and he's threatening. He's leaning on the roof. His legs are dangling off the roof. So Roddy Monroe said, I'm trying to talk to him through the door, the door that comes up from the stairwell. The guy's not paying attention to me, he can't hear me. So Rodney says, here's what we're going to do. The tactical guy's there. We're going to tie a rope around you, Pete, and then I want you to walk out and see if you can get close to this guy and talk some smack to him. Going, okay, sounds like a crazy idea. All right, they tie the rope around me, and I walk out, and the guy he's looking down, and it's high, you know. I'm looking down. Holy shit, man, this is scary. So I end up sitting next to the guy, but I got the rope, and I'm talking to the guy, and he goes, Mr. Pete, you're going to get yourself killed. Let's get the hell out of here. He comes in.
So he negotiated you off the roof.
They pulled me in on the rope, and the poor bastard, you know, and then I had a jump at that picture you showed me with walking the guy with the hoodie on, and he's on a TV tower on 14th and U Street, very busy corridor, and he's way up on top, and the fire department comes. And Pete, it's always the big one. Pete, you got the big one. We got other negotiators, but all right, whatever. So the fire department comes, and they put the ladder up about 5 stories. So I go up. But the firefighter, he's a nice guy. He hooks me into a carabiner, so you know, in case I go toppling off the thing, they can catch me. So I go up. I've never been on the ladder. It starts out like real wide. And when you get up there, it's like a 2-digit midget. There's no whole day I'm holding on. So I'm talking to the guy, and he's a tragic guy. You know, I finally get the hook. He's a junkie. He's dying of AIDS. But he has a daughter, and he loves his daughter, and he gives me her name, and we home in on the daughter, and it worked after a while, and he comes down, and I take him down on, you know, the ladder, and we get to the bottom, and he was a tragic guy, and I ended up I go to the hospital because they took him to the hospital, and I visited him there, and he was dying of AIDS at that point, and I talked to his mother, and I said, you know, your son, all he cared about was his daughter, and you know, things were going through his mind, and he's a good boy, and she thanked me a lot, and then he died, and you know, I said to my lieutenant one day, I went into him and I said, you know, we do a lot of negotiations on these suicide jobs, and you know, boss, what did I accomplish? What did I say? You know, he's dying. We get him back so we can live a few more weeks. He said, Pete, that's not your job. You just do what you got to do. You get down, and then that's what you should focus on. And I went to the guy's funeral. I found the funeral home in D.C. and I went soft clothes, and you know, I said a prayer for the guy, and because I'm not in his moccasins, and that's so that's that, you know. So, but we can take some more questions from the folks that tuned in, or
yeah. So we got Jimmy Kennedy on here with a comment. Monroe later, chief of police with Charlotte Mecklenburg PD.
correct?
Yeah.
Rodney Monroe. Yes.
Yeah.
He went to after that. He was in Richmond.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was good to me. He was good, and Melvin Clark, another great guy. Just, you know, Melvin was. We come from a bad job, and we went back to the station house, ERT, and he said, "Mangan, get out of my office here." Big black guy, solid like a rock, but just a gentleman, and all right, hey Mangan, good job today. Here's what we're gonna do. You go up to that liquor store up by the Capitol Police, you get 2 bottles of Courvoisier, whatever the hell that was. I didn't know. Courvoisier, some kind of
Cognac.
Yeah.
Cognac, Pete.
And he goes, and get 2 cases of beer and we're firing up the grill, and hurry the hell up. And don't let that guy shortchange you in that liquor store because he's a no good bastard. So I went in and I got the stuff and I bring it back to the station, and we had a de-escalation, and another great guy, and we had a
Yes,
barricade.
Peter, we got a comment from Deputy Chief, retired NYPD, who's also one of the co-hosts with Ron Layson on the Executive Perspective on the Finest and Unfiltered team.
Yes.
Rob Lukash, a sign of a true negotiator, a follow-up visit which is not required.
No, I used to get calls from that woman whose baby was dead, and I used to talk to her on that. She got a hold of my number on the station, and the station said we won't give her your number. I said, you give her my number. And I talked to her for many years after, and then that child would have been 35 years old or something like that now, no life, dead because of this bastard. And what she could have been, I don't know. She could have been something great, and now she's in a little coffin, and then sometimes I think of that, and so then I went to 9/11. I'm talking fast, and like I told Pete, I went there a week later with my buddy Dan Kumar, great agent. Ironically, used to be a marshal in Newark before we didn't cross paths, and we got up there, and we got permission from my boss, and she said go up and do a study on our response and write up a report. So me and Dan, we drive up, and coming up the Jersey Turnpike, I see the smoke, and we clock into the office in Brooklyn, and we look at each other. We're going. So we get to the pile, and we work there. And I never ever said that this was a recovery in my mind. This is not a recovery. This is a rescue for these guardian angels that are still with us, and they're there till this day. And I remember when that siren, that horn went off, and they found a body, a departed one, and everything came to a halt, and we all stood at attention. And I, it was emotional, and I wore a mask, and you remember those paper masks? I threw that thing out, and the dust. It smelled like I never get that smell out of my mouth. It was like a burnt plastic garbage can. I'd never forget it. It's there all the time, and we stood at attention for these poor souls. So yeah, it's and you know, it was a not a recovery in my mind, and never will be.
If I may, well, by that time, Pete was with ATF. I know you had retired from the DC Metro Police Department. On 9/11, you were with ATF. And then Pete had a hand in working with the Beltway Sniper case. So here Pete's a humble guy involved in two nationally relevant cases, that, people still read about. But just we're going back to 9/11. There was a period when I was in headquarters, because I saw all the ATF raid jackets on the pile. I know guys. We in the group that I was in, which is 10 people, 7 have had cancer, 3 are dead. Right, Billy Sheldon. We lost Caesar. We lost. Oh my goodness, I could picture his face, Chris Behan. Right, but ATF's involvement at Ground Zero was almost forgotten about, and it was Pete Mangan who had taken photographs that are now found not only at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum, but are in our atrium of ATF headquarters. So, unbeknownst to Pete, back in those days when he was up there, the work that he did helped memorialize what ATF did on that site. Otherwise, it would have been almost completely forgotten about. So thank you for that, Pete.
Yeah.
But why don't you tell us a little bit about your work on the Beltway Sniper case? Because I was, between us, I was with ATF shortly before 9/11 happened. Because 9/11 happened, they didn't send me to the academy right away. I had a badge and a gun day one. They're like, you're going to stay here till, right? So when the Beltway Sniper case was going on, I was in the academy. So I had no involvement in it whatsoever. We were just like, holy shit, this is going on. We all wanted to be part of it, but we were stuck there during training. But I know, Pete, you were part of it. So can we touch on that a little?
Yeah. So, I'm in headquarters, and I'm watching this. There's a shooting in Montgomery County where I live, So I called the ATF guy that worked in that area, and I said, "Hey, you on? You see what's going on?" I said, "Yeah, we're gonna go. We're gonna head over that way." And they were shooting, and I go over to SOD, and I talked to a supervisor over there, and he's super. I said, "Hey, boss, you getting this situation? We got a bunch of shootings going on up here, and I think maybe think about ginning up." And I'm a cop, civilian. Did anybody call you, Mangan? I said, "No, nobody call me. What do you mean call me?" I said, they're in stress up there. And he said, "But we don't go anywhere until we're called." Yeah, okay, well, hang that, disregard that clown. And we rolled out, and we went up there. And so I was in the negotiation pod, Montgomery County Police, the lead agency, and ATF and FBI, and they were all good. I was in the pod there as an advisor, and where the guy played the kid got on a payphone down in near Richmond, and left this long conversation about what their intentions were, and he used some verbiage, duck and a noose. So I said, "Man, that sounds, yeah, okay, duck and a noose." So I call the New York office, and I talked to a agent up there from Jamaica, and I said, "Pete, to this guy Jim, you ever hear this expression, duck and a noose?" Pete, there ain't no ducks in Jamaica." So, "Oh, okay, that's well, I don't know." So at the same time, and I can't think of. Do you remember that show, Manhunt? There was a deputy U.S. Marshal that was on that show.
Yeah, Lenny.
Lenny
DePaul.
Lenny DePaul. So he's down in Miami on another case, but he's monitoring, and they're doing an investigation. So his guys are do some research quick, and it turns out Duck and the Noose is from British reggae music, and he calls the command post. Lenny, I never met him, and that put it together. This kid is not local. He's from the islands, and one thing led to another, and we were able to track him. And the shooter, he did most of the shooting. They came in from Canada, and one thing led to another, and we tracked him. Yeah, and that kid's now in prison in Virginia because some of the shootings were in Virginia, and so it came together, and I had some good bosses there that backed the negotiation process, and I the FBI try to they try to muscle the case a little bit, and
Oh, not them. Come on, Pete.
Yeah.
You're full of baloney. They never do that, those FBI guys.
so they come in, and Danny Kumar's up there too, and this FBI guy comes in and said, we're moving the negotiations to Richmond, and you're going to Richmond, Mangan. So I said, all right, okay, Richmond. So they take me over to the fire department in Montgomery County, and they put me in a helicopter with the Army, and we go down 95, and then I'm in the helicopter, and they drop me off, and it's a big empty field there. So Jim Cavanaugh, who was a very big. He really was a wonderful advocate for the negotiation program, because he had been at Waco and had tried to negotiate, but we didn't have a negotiation component. So he was a big advocate. So he's at the command post and he finds out, where's Mangan? Oh, he's in this wingtip scale individual. He sent Mangan to Richmond. Kavanaugh sends a unit down and they code me back to DC, to Montgomery County. You know, and they actually, Moose, Chief Moose, he used to believe these messages you could see on TV, and he'd make these comments, and people were saying, "What's the matter with this guy?" But the deal was, the shooters wanted to hear those terminology to know that he was listening. So that's what happened. And then they took him down to a rest stop in Montgomery County or Frederick County, I forget which, and you know, they made the apprehension, and so that was.
So Peter, if I may, I found a video online. I'd love to get your guys' take on it. The ATF actually recreated the perch from inside the trunk on that Chevy. So let's play that. It's about a 55-second video. Let's play that and then see if you guys. I'd love to hear Pete your perspective. Your perspective. Peter, your perspective on this. I think the listeners would love to hear it as well. So let's do this. Add to stage and let her rip. Check this out, everybody. The ATF's not too sophisticated. They didn't figure out how to put audio and video together.
Yeah, those are SRT crayon eater types, Tom.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. You know how many cops have run that tag? And go. And a truck driver was the one that spotted him at the rest stop. A hero.
Because they were looking for a white van for the longest time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was bad information. How a story can run ahead of itself. Yeah, every van in the tri-state area is a white van. We're kidding. So yeah. So with that was a tragedy. These poor innocent people dead, and I was scared out of my mind. My family's scared. Everybody's ducking at the gas. You can't get gas because you're going to get shot. So it was bad.
If I remember correctly, Peter, like the spread was like it was wide, and like a lot of serial killers, they got more prolific and they were much more advanced.
He used the white van to their benefit, because he would do several shootings right before their white van. Because one case in Virginia where actually an FBI administrative woman was killed in a Home Depot parking garage. He waited for a white van and he shot from a hotel parking lot. And witness after witness said it was a white van. I saw the smoke coming out of the window. Well, it was him in the hide there, and so that got us way off track. And we finally got it back on track. And
Pete, wasn't the situation that they did one intentional killing of someone that they specifically sought out, and then the rest were just shootings that were done to try to fog up that one shooting?
Yeah, it was. He was trying to get even with his ex-wife who lived in Maryland, and that was his motive. To get his wife back, or some very strange thoughts process, and he thought that was going to show her how much he loved her. It was very twisted.
Yeah.
And, and the kid did most of the shootings, and I don't know.
Well, Pete, I want to.
Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I want to pivot a little bit because we covered a lot of your career and we talked about a lot of stuff that's weighs heavily on the heart and on the mind. And look, we've been there. We talked about that, but some of the names of commenters: Bill Temple, Carlos Canino.
Bill Temple is one. He was in the tech office, and he put that. I think he helped with that video. Bill Temple in a tech.
Yeah, but what I want to talk about was in your post time in the field life, you had a huge impact on a lot of people in ATF at all different levels, but particularly among the leaders. Bill Temple was a deputy assistant director. Carlos Canino, special agent in charge, deputy assistant director. I rose up to that rank. And you mentioned Danny Kumar. I mean, these were all people who respected you, and you were never a supervisor, but there were a lot of people who took counsel from you, and then you were also very involved in the leadership development programs. I mean, so when I bring it up because you gave so much back to the next generation, I want to talk about that because that's very important. Especially we have a couple gentlemen on listening in that are on the executive perspective who look at things from the executive leadership. You developed a lot of ATF executives. Can we talk about that?
Well, I worked the building, and I got to give some credit, not much credit to my wingman at ATF. Just so many good people. Jeff Bocek, Brent Beavers, Bobby Cicada.
Who's running the show now?
Yep. But I remember when Bocek came to the headquarters, he was like a newbie. The country, never been to the big city. So my supervisor calls me in. He goes, Jeff Bocek, welcome to the big town. This is Mangan. You stay with him, keep your mouth shut, and do everything he tells you to do. And so me and Bocek, we became a team, and Bocek, we worked that building, and if the good stuff was happening, we treated everybody good, and he went on to be a good boss. And but I remember a quick story. So we're going for a sandwich at another Italian place, and this is in DC. Not bad, Magliotto's, very nice. So he's driving. We get the the ATF car, and he starts out. We're in these narrow streets on Capitol Hill. He immediately almost takes a side view mirror off a car. Okay, that's a good start. So we get to Magliotto's, which is out on Pennsylvania Avenue. He's driving. We get the sub, and we head back to headquarters. And in the front of the car, way down 7, 8 blocks, 10 blocks, you can see the U.S. Capitol. So Bocek is like, he opens the window. He's screaming out, "That's the U.S. Capitol! I can't believe it! I can't pull over!" Trying to take a picture.
Fanboy. He was fanboying the Capitol.
Yeah, he was, but he was such a good guy, and just so many good cops and in the building, and I just love them all. And they gave me the opportunity to. They treated me like good. They treated me like I was still on the job, and but I used to work that building, and throw me out if you want, throw me out, listen to me. Carlos was a great listener. Paul Vanderplow. I mean, I can go on and on about so many different people. Beef, just so many good.
Yeah, but you also were pretty innovative in that you brought in some relationships. Because look, let's be honest. After Fast and Furious, there was a time where people didn't trust ATF leadership, and when that was going on, not everybody, obviously. but they certainly didn't trust the way we developed our leaders. So you were pretty innovative in that you brought in some folks from the Army War College, the Navy Center for Ethical Leadership. Was it Stockdale Center? I mean, what made you decide that that was the way to go, and how did you pull that stuff off with such success?
Well, Bocek and Marino Vitali and a couple other good leaders, and some management said we gotta reach out to our middle management and groom them to move up the ranks. And I'm a slick sleeve, so I had a great colleague of mine, a retired FBI agent, Paul Allen, who had a good relationship with the military, and he was my brain. I once again, I'm going to dig the ditch. He was the brains of this, and then really got going. And we had some wonderful speakers. Dan Linsky from Boston PD. We had him as a guest speaker. Pete was there talking ground truth to the troops. They couldn't believe it, and it's just. I could see that. I could see the good guys and gals that were in that, and but I could also detect some people that got off at the wrong subway stop.
Yeah,
Should not have
we just had a comment from Chris Schaefer, who worked with you as a negotiator and who was ATF assistant director for a while, and then left and became the deputy chief of police for Indio, California. So yeah, you got a lot of the people that you helped along the way decided to tune in and listen to us tonight, Pete, which I think is a compliment to just the kind of person you are.
Chris says, I love that boy. And you know what? I tracked him one day, and he was a chief out there. He started as a assistant director in a funeral home. So I don't know how he ended up with ATF, but thank God he did.
He would have made more money working for a funeral home, I'll tell you.
Yeah, they weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
But another good copper. Man, I can name a million guys. But
yeah. I'm going to jump in here, Peter and Pete. Something else came up today when I was talking to some other folks who were calling me today. Hood Mayor, New York City, thank you for Ten-Four Tavern. Got some good dope over here, champagne bottles. This is a little arm breaking. Both John Macari from the Finest Unfiltered, Eric Dim, the founders of this entire platform. John texted me today and he said, man, you guys gotten some great guests. And then I took another call today from somebody, and you know what they said to me? They said to me, every single person you've brought on today for the last 12 episodes since you started, and the one you got today, they're all the real deal. No posers, no fakers, no people who worked one caper and then riding that one caper their whole career.
No.
I said, my response to that was, I feel that I've been blessed with a very localized career in the NYPD and got to meet some incredible people there. But then my transition to the private sector has brought me all across the country to meet all these other great people. Pete and that federal agent who called me today across the country and even in other countries and other nations. And I said, I believe, and I speak for Pete, you right now, I think we feel blessed of all the great people we've met. Yeah. And I know Pete Forcelli, and I don't think we're bringing on any posers. No. So we're here to bring some real deal cops, federal agents. We might even bring a prosecutor or two coming along in the future, because the part of putting really bad people away in jail is not just the cops and the agents and the detectives; it's everybody. And I think they're not the sexiest stories in the world, and they're not the most up to date, current. Because we are going to talk about the DC takeover in Memphis and Chicago tonight. I want to bring that up, but and it's not controversial. But these are all the stories that need to be told, and that's why Pete and I are here with the Finest Unfiltered family, because we want to recognize all of the really great work. And that we want to inspire future cops and hopefully the pendulum switches and swings back to the right side in this country, where people want to be cops again in a very vigorous and enthusiastic way, and that the leadership protects them and takes care of them the way they should be when they deserve to be. Obviously, wrongdoing. Pete's always said it. Pete's got two quotes. It's okay to be not okay. And he always says nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop. So we're not encouraging that. But cops get the benefit of the doubt because they were trained. They're there. They're trying to do the right thing. And if a mistake is made, is a mistake of the heart, is a mistake of the mind. Those are very two different things. So with that, thank you for the comment here. Hood Mayor, New York City. Yes, Peter Mangan is one of the best of the best, probably nationally ever. I know that's a false statement, but I think a lot of the stories today have dictated that. And yeah, we're going to continue to keep bringing on really strong people who we know who have walked the walk and talked the talk. No posers coming.
No, and I'll tell you this too, Tommy. You know, I still speak. Look, I was blessed to go through the Army War College program that Pete Mangan put on, and I got to meet some really amazing people, like Colonel John Valador, for example. He's the guy that came up with the concept of flipping the insurgents to go back against the Iraqis. Brilliant, brilliant guy. He's from Spanish Harlem. I still hear from John Valador. Why? Because Pete Mangan introduced me to the guy, and he had such deep respect for Pete that every now and then I'll hear from John. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he is, not just amongst other cops, but amongst other good people who love our country and want to do the right thing to keep people safe, whether it's keeping people safe in the cities that we live in or keeping our soldiers safe in another country. Just inspiring guy who inspired a lot of people.
I'm telling you, this is not a job. This is a calling, you know, and I'm just blessed that I got the opportunity to wear the badge, and I have it with me every day, my retirement tin, and you know, it's been a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful ride. I just want one more shout out to Jeff Bocek. Man,
his head's going to get too big, Pete. His head's going to swell. Come on.
You're right. And all the rest of my great colleagues. And you know what? I go to the supermarket today, and somebody needs help. I'm going to help them out. And everybody is somebody. And, you know, from the security guard to the crossing guard to the people that let me into the Montgomery County Police Department, where I volunteer with some of the greatest good detectives. Just some good people, and yeah, you know, I love work going in there. It's 2 days a week, and they treat me very well, and you know, I'm proud of my Montgomery County. It's Eric Glass is a guy there that you know, he's
I think I met him at my book signing.
yes, exactly, and
So, hey, listen, I want to switch over because Pete, you clicked me earlier in the week, whatever. Pinged me earlier in the week. Sorry, I'm stumbling. It's the second martini. I'm not going to the third because, like breast,
no, you can't do that. Bad.
We wanted to talk about the DC takeover. You thought Peter would have a really good perspective on that.
There. He's a DC cop. Yeah.
Yeah, and then since then, Memphis and Chicago have been announced. I think they're very different, so we'll talk that. But before we do that, we touched a little bit on the PTSD. Happy to circle back in our waning moments as we're starting to wrap up here. But Peter, you wanted to talk about the concept of follow, not fellow, but fellowship. Why don't you share with everybody what that means to you? And like I said, I talked about it at home. I thought it was a really fascinating perspective, and I know Pete will have some comments on it. I'll definitely have some comments. I want to hear from you first. Tell everybody what you see as fellowship.
Well, so everybody's not a leader, but there's a lot of followers out there. And like I said, I never made rank, didn't want to make rank. I actually, you know, I took the sergeant's test one time for DC Police, and I went down and went to the police academy, the training academy where they had the test, and I screwed that up, and it turned out it was the fire department test. I don't know how that happened, but at any rate, I never made rank. I don't want to make rank. I'm a follower of good leaders, and I gravitate toward good leaders, and I'll follow them anywhere. But they're 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 wonderful, and uh, we want to look for those good leaders that are looking out for the troops and looking out for the community, and they don't have any ambitions other than trying to get us through the day. And I'll follow them anywhere. I followed many a good ones, and I'm looking at Pete right now, and I just could go down the list, and my world is um, sort of myopic in a way, but I judge a lot of law enforcement people by do I want to hit a door with this guy? And if the answer is no, then I you know what, where I stand. But if yes, I'm gonna go through that door, whatever it takes, right behind you, and keyword behind you, and that's my world. That's my world, and there's just so many good ones, and we don't get I think that things are turning around, and you know, I don't know. I wear my MPD ball cap a lot, and some woman came up to me in the supermarket and said, "Look, a cop." And I said, "Slightly retired," but she said, I want to thank you for all you do, and I don't know anything about you, but I hope things turn around." And she's just some lady in the supermarket, So the good people are out there. There's legions of the good people, and uh, we sacrifice a lot. And when you go to that wall, and color, ethnicity. My grandfather's first partner uh, in the police department was worked the footbeat, and he was black. And I learned that from my prejudices. It's a dead end. It doesn't mean that wall down there doesn't categorize people by race or color. And then that's something I never forgot. And I treat everybody. And me and Bocek, we work the building, um, and treat everybody good, because you never know who's going to save your ass. You never know. And I just that's by and
Yeah. So here's a picture of your grandfather. So clearly you get the DNA from him going back, and I wanted to just bring that back. And then let's do a couple of other photographs that we got from you.
that was down at the police memorial last few months back, and I came up, went down there, and got a good parking space because Angel Gabriel looking out for me close by. So I walked down and I saw my MPD honor guard, strapped, good folk, and these are good cops, but they do this honor guard thing uh, because they love it. And I said, "Can I take a picture with you?" And they lined up and they put me in the middle.
Oh, let me go back.
They put me in the middle, and they took the photograph of me, and I thanked every one of them, and they were wonderful. They treated me like I was still on the job, and it meant a lot. And that wall could break your heart right open, and just a lot of good people. And
So Pete, there's another caper on here. You could touch on it just a little bit, because I want our viewers to understand, like, the comments are great. It's like, oh my God, this guy's been worked on so many big capers and the craziness and all that stuff. And we didn't even get to them all that you shared with me. We might have to have you back. I'm sure you know what this one is.
Yeah, that a guy. He wants to take a. He's mad at the nuclear energy, whatever that means. So his answer to that was, I'm going to drive up to the mall with a truck full of explosives, and I'm going to blow up the Washington Monument in because I hate nuclear weapons, whatever the hell. So I get the call. I go down there. It's Melvin Clark. He's the honcho. We got park police. We got everybody. We got everybody's doing. They're doing all that mathematics to see the load on the tires, yada yada. So I'm in the armored car, and Melvin Clark, captain, calls me, and I'm with a Sergeant McKinney, good cop. We're in the armored car, which used to be a bank. What do you call it? They go to the banks, collect the money, unarmored car service. But we repainted it, so I'm in there, and Melvin Clark says, "Okay, we can't let this guy leave the mall under any circumstances." So all right. So he said, "Here's what you're going to do. If he tries to get behind the wheel and starts to drive, Mangan, I want you to ram the truck and tell him to get out and strip down naked." I said, "Melvin, Captain Clark, let's reboot here a minute. You want me to ram the truck with the armored car full of explosive?" I said, "Yeah, scratch that shit, Mangan. That ain't going to work." So at any rate, he ultimately does take off, and U.S. Park Police counter sniper is up on the I forget what building he was on, Treasury building or something, and he hit the front windshield, and it spun him around, and the next shot went up. The guy had a motorcycle helmet on, and went into his motorcycle helmet, and he flipped the truck over. And some guy comes out of the crowd, all cops everywhere, and he runs up, and before we could get there, and he handcuffs this Norman Mayer. He handcuffs him to the steering wheel, and then he leaves. So we get up there. Norman is bled out all over the place. His brain, he's done. The helmet's it's a freaking mess. So Melvin comes on. Oh, let's get this guy out of the cuffs, and we'll give him medical assistance, although he's dead. So we have the little cuffs, like the Smith and Wesson cuffs. So he's cuffed. He's got the federal cuffs on with the big circle. Nobody has a key. Nobody. We're looking around. Finally, some ATF guy that's in the crowd comes up, and he gives us the key so we can unlock Norman Mayer. And it was and then the mall opened again, and people like, wow, the mall's back open. That's great. But just crazy stuff. But Melvin, he rammed the truck. I don't know. He was the guy that told me to sit on the ledge here. But a wonderful guy. And but I.
All right, you guys ready to shift over a little DC federal takeover? Peter, why don't you share with us what you thought from your perspective of Trump's takeover of DC and what has happened since then, and then we'll dive in on Memphis next, and then Chicago, and why those are different than DC.
For me, well, it's a federal city. They got a fantastic police department and wonderful folks. They're spread thin, and we had we had attrition. We can't fill the slot. They can't fill the slots. The chief is trying her hardest, and the mayor to try to. They just got a 13% raise because of the shortage, and the feds came in, and they basically they're walking on the mall, and they're at the Washington Monument. Well, that's so they could release the police, the park police, for instance, to go out and patrol, and then let the uniform cops do their thing. And I had no heartburn with it. And like I said, anybody that could come to help us is a good thing. And every life's important. And There's too much death. So many good people, DC, trapped in a bad situation because DC is a schizophrenic town. There's a Georgetown, a beautiful, and there's the mall and all these museums, and then there's the hardcore, in your face bad places, and your son is working in one of them, and the fifth district and the sixth district and the seventh district, and the cops are good, and just good people in a bad situation, and we owe them, and so somebody can come to help us them, then that's fine. That's a good thing. So
So I don't think there's a shortage of people who want to help those people that you're talking about, Peter,
yes,
but they feel like I'm not taking a job, that I'm not going to be protected. I'm not going to be supported.
Yeah.
I'm going out there in good faith to do the right thing. Again, followers, leaders, right? Leaders set the tone, leaders set the policy, right? You got legislators, you got law, you got politicians, all dictating what we do. They've stripped them down, bail reform, defund, all of the junk. Cops are getting jammed up, video cameras everywhere, which is perfectly fine. I don't think people are afraid of the video cameras, but you know what? A resisting arrest is never pretty. I mean, it's one of my favorite quotes. It's never pretty. It's actually ugly, but it's legal. And that's what they need. Then they need to stop with their emotions on how it looks. Is it legal? So go ahead, guys.
Yeah, but and those cameras, they actually help cops more than they hurt them. And if you're a good cop, I wouldn't fear a camera. It is what it is. And believe me, trying to cuff somebody that doesn't want to be cuffed, and I'm preaching to the choir, ain't good. And the only thing is, and I had a couple of situations. You call in at 10:13 in DC. It's at 10:33, and tell you the folks come, they come, but they come so bad to help you, they end up up on the bottom of the pile. So, but I just want to, but it's fine. And just a couple of stories about radio runs and how we monitor the radio. I'll never forget some transmissions. I remember good cop. He gets on the radio and he's behind a stolen vehicle, a wanted vehicle, and he goes, "I don't know where I am. I don't know what I got, but give me some assistance." All right, on the way, bro.
Yep. Hey, Peter, this is your guy right here. Pete. Sorry, Pete. This is your guy. Why don't you read his quote?
Oh, yeah.
Pete is a cop's cop.
Pete
Honest to work and learn from Dan Linsky to you, my friend.
Wonderful guy. Came down in rain, snowstorm, posted and told a story about the Boston bombing and his leadership. And I'll tell you, that guy's a superstar. And I'm telling you, he's a cop, and he brought the emotion out, and wonderful fellow. And just one more radio story. So we're in patrol down by the U.S. Scav, actually right by where ATF headquarters is now, and Scout 13. It's like a radio car. Scout 13, the unit block of Hanover. We got a report of a male suspect. He's nude, wearing combat boots, and he's yelling and screaming. So some lady answers, a police officer woman, they're wonderful. She answers the radio. I'm responding. So we're waiting. I'm starting to roll that way. So she gets back on the radio. Scout 13, I'm in the block. I don't see anything. You got a better description? The radio went berserk for an hour and a half. You couldn't talk. It was just some funny stuff I want to tell you about, and I love it. I love the job. I love
So
all
what-
my fans.
Yeah. So what do you guys think is going to happen in Chicago and DC? This is not the takeover. It's very different. We're not going to get into the weeds, but the president had the authority to do what he did in DC very differently than what's going to happen in Chicago and Memphis. The politicians, they did their round robin press conference, yada, yada, with all the politicians all in the back. And my personal opinion is the fact that a president is even involved in this is disgraceful to me.
Yeah.
Like, where are the local leaders and where's the local police departments that they need presidential intervention? It is what it is. That's where we are now. What do you guys think is going to happen?
Well, I think what's going to happen is that criminals are going to lay low until they leave, and then they're going to come back out. Look, here's the problem, and I said it 1,000 times, man. That's why trigger lock worked. Where there are no consequences, bad people will do violent things, right? I mean, look, when you saw crime getting reduced, for example, even in New York City during the days of Giuliani, crime went up in Yonkers, Mount Vernon, Elmont. So you displace some criminals. But here's the thing, trigger lock worked because we put some really bad people who were apt to pull the trigger away for a really long time.
Yep.
The problem in Chicago, and I don't know about Memphis, I can't speak intelligently about Memphis, is
Rough town.
they won't put people in jail. In fact, I was flown out to Chicago in 2013 to talk to them about replicating trigger lock. And the funny thing is the Chicago PD was like, wow, this is great. Chicago U.S. Attorney's Office wanted nothing to do with it. So what happens is you're just shoveling shit into the tide. You're arresting people just to cut them loose. They'll be out 3, 4, 5 days later to reoffend. So until prosecutors start doing their jobs again, this is all for naught. It's a show, and that's sad because it should have a lasting effect. And the people who are affected the most by it are people of color that live in neighborhoods that are prone to violence. Until you take the shitheads out of those neighborhoods, they're going to continue to have violence. That's my spiel.
I certainly can't agree with you more. And I've been to Memphis, and it's a rough town. I've been all over the country with the negotiation stuff and with emergency response, and it's Brett Beavers is on the air now, my ATF buddy, and he's in Memphis. He's been to Memphis, and he's a Memphis guy, and it's a tough town. And Chicago, good cops. I mean, that body count, it's worse than, it's like, it reminds me of Vietnam when the news would come on with Walter Concrete, whatever his Concrete, that guy. When today we lost, and to give you a number count of.
So I'm gonna name drop because Gary McCarthy was on here on our second episode. We talked about Chicago and leadership. We talked about leadership in the vacuum that is leadership in law enforcement across the country. When you just said they're good cops in Chicago, what I heard over and over again in my 20-something years of knowing Chicago cops, my last 5 years, I got to know them. After 9/11, my boss went to the National Academy with the Chicago cops. We wound up going to Chicago every June for a homestand at Wrigley. If you've ever been to Wrigley Field, and if you've never been to Wrigley Field, you need to be. That is the best game. A Saturday afternoon game at Wrigley is the best game in the country. Dan Linsky. It's not Fenway, unless it's a championship game, Super Bowl, Stanley Cup, World Series, or something like that. Your regular season game, nothing better than a Cubs game. I'll say Fenway's probably number 2. That being said,
Camden Yard's up there too, brother. Camden Yard is up there too.
Say something about Chicago.
come on. The Orioles. That's not
the stadium.
That's not
the
Cubs.
stadium is amazing.
That's not Cubs. That's not Cubs Red Sox territory. Unless Brooks Robinson, not Cal Ripken, but Brooks Robinson.
Let me say something about Chicago PD, if I could.
I just want to finish that. I heard the cops were great, the bosses were weak. That's what I heard over and over again.
Could be. Let me say one thing about the.
And I don't mean all of the bosses. They had a supervisory problem with weak bosses, and the strong bosses had to step up.
Very quick story. On 9/11, me and Dan Kumar, we come up to New York. We stayed at a hotel on the west side, that woman that she owned a whole bunch of hotels. I forget her name.
Helmsley.
Yeah, Leona, with the dog. So we're in the building. There's nobody else in the hotel. We park right on Sixth Avenue, and we gear up for that night. We sleep up, and then we're heading out, and we're heading down to the pile, and we're getting on the FDR. I think at 59th Street might have an entrance there. So me and Dan pull up, and there's a barricade there. Met by Chicago PD, a lieutenant, 2 sergeants, and 4 officers checking ID, and they're marked units. And Dan pulls his creds out. I pull out my creds, and they said, get going down there, and we got you covered. And they were manning that post. It was just, I just remember that Chicago Star on there, crew of marked cars, and it was a good feeling. But then that pile, everybody from everywhere digging, from every department you can think of, and I don't know, man.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. I didn't mean all Chicago bosses. I meant that they had a problem. The ones that were great, they were elevated. I know a lot of them. I've met a lot of them. But they had a big problem getting good bosses to take leadership roles. And there were probably more people like you, Peter, leading from behind, taking control when the bosses were supposed to be stepping in. But I just want to be clear, I speak hyperbolic. I'm a New Yorker. That's just what it is. And I exaggerated.
I knew Chicago was in trouble when the city council passed tried to pass an order that you had to call in if you wanted to engage in a foot pursuit.
Yep.
Foot pursuit.
Yep.
I know you got a big problem with that too. There's a couple of jurisdictions you might be close to.
Yeah, Fairfax County, Virginia has the same policy. Cowardice. It's leadership cowardice. One incident goes bad, so rather than just say, hey, these things happen, policing's not pretty, they decide to just change policy to handcuff the police. And they said when it's a police chief doing it, that's not leadership, that's cowardice. And I have zero respect for the chief of my county police department, but I've told them as much. So, Pete, I'm not one to mince my words.
Can I just mention something about my volunteering at Montgomery County Police?
Yeah, sure.
Just want to
Let's wrap it up with that. Absolutely.
I just want to mention I work in the homicide unit, respond to the homicide unit, and I work with Eric Glass. I'm not going to give the last names. Pete knows who he is. Paula, and the whip there, the top kick is Casey, and they're beautiful people, and they allow me to come in there and breathe some cop air, and they do such a wonderful job, and they don't get a lot of credit, and just like everywhere else, but they're coming around, and the Montgomery County Police has got a new chief, and it's an honor to go there and just be part of the circus.
Chief Lukash is saying next thing you know, they'll make cops wear sandals so they can't run after people.
Yeah.
Pete, I just make one comment on that. Peter, I love that you use the term whip. That's some old school stuff right there. Yeah. The whip running the detective squad. So guys, everyone, all our listeners and viewers today need to realize this guy did 50 years and in law enforcement and all this stuff, and he's still doing it voluntarily in Montgomery County, work with the cold case squad. Props to the cold case people. Hashtag never give up. Peter Forcelli, I'm going to let you wrap up on Peter Mangan, the legend.
Let me confirm. It's not the cold case squad. It's the homicide squad.
Oh, is it the homicide? I thought it was the cold case squad. Maybe I misread somewhere.
Down the hall. They're fantastic also.
Gotcha. Apologies to the homicide squad. If you guys can do me a favor, Peter Forcelli, why don't you wrap up on Peter Mangan, and then we'll do a closeout.
Yeah, like I said, a legendary career, and we use the word legendary perhaps too much, but I think that it's clear that that's the case here. But like I said, I mean, I don't know of anybody who's paid it forward as much as Peter Mangan in the way he's trained the next generation of ATF, who are continuing to train the next generation. There he is working with Montgomery County, still paying it forward. Just the guy who's the purest of public servants. So honored to have you on the show today, Pete. I know we're getting ready to wrap up, man. Love you. We need more like you, and just thank you for coming on from the bottom of my heart.
A pleasure, and stay safe, everybody out there, all the listeners. And I'm just blessed by God, and He gave me that tin, and that tin's gonna ride me to heaven. I hope I'm going to get a pass through the side door, but you know, I think Angel Gabriel will be looking out for me a little bit. Maybe I'll go through. You know, he'll sneak me in. But I'll be on patrol up there with the rest of you guys eventually, and we'll be looking down on the guys and gals that are still out there doing the do. And just want to give another shout out to Jay and Ann out there, my good friends from Montgomery County, and my great supporters. And I just, well, the world is a lot better than one's led to believe. And
well, we got some comments real quick. Thanks for coming on, Peter, from the New York's finest, Unfiltered team. Rob Lukash, Chief, great guest. Thank you, Peter Mangan, for your service. Ron Layson, retired inspector, NYPD. Thank you for your service. Great show, gentlemen. Felicia, wait, why did I get you? Felicia, great show, guys. Quadruple hearts, Mr. Mangan, thank you for your service. BT, great to see you all. Peter, you are awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. So they're coming in. They're flying in right now as we're wrapping up. All right. I am going to bring to the stage tomorrow at 8:05 a.m. That's Wednesday. On the right-hand side, Eric, John, and Marlon are doing their podcast, 8:05 Eastern in the morning, a.m. Former New York City Council member Sal Albanese. So that'll be an interesting conversation, diving into the politics and what's about to brew up inside of New York City. And then at 5:05, the executive perspective, 5:05 Eastern Standard Time tomorrow night, Wednesday. Retired NYPD Assistant Commissioner Kevin O'Connor. He's a friend. That's going to be very interesting, very vocal. His mission and passion are children and crimes, offenders, and protecting kids. Be a great conversation with the three of those guys. Really looking forward to that. And then Thursday, the Sal Greco show should be at 1:05, barring any other circumstances. Don't forget to get to the Sal Greco show on every Tuesday and Thursday, 1:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. With that, always plug in Pete's book, The Deadly Path, because the reason why Pete's doing what he's doing is because he's a high integrity law enforcement lawman. And he wrote the book, The Deadly Path, on the Fast and Furious whistleblower situation that he was put in. And he stepped up, did the right thing. Him and his family are owed a debt of gratitude. So please get The Deadly Path, also found on Amazon, Google, Books, Scheiman & Schuster, Barnes & Noble, peterjforcelli.com. With that, guys, I think that we're going to be a wrap. So any other final thoughts before we close out?
Good seeing you, Pete. God bless.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the honor, and all my brothers and sisters in blue, stay safe, and we know what our job is to do, and end the violence, and be good coppers. Don't ever bend the badge, and we'll make a better world.
Yep. All right. Have a great night, everybody. Please be safe. Peter, thank you. What a pleasure to meet you and get to know you over the last week. I've heard the stories for years. Finally got to meet the man, the legend. Thank you. We'll be in touch, I'm sure.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Hanging out.